Hi, I'm Sarah with the Hobby Lobby Creative Studio. Welcome back to our Sew This Bedroom series. Today I'm going to show you how to make a gorgeous show-stopping headboard. First, you'll need to gather your supplies. Just click on our printable link for a full list of what you'll need to make a headboard like this one. To start, you'll want to cut your backer into the shape you want for your headboard. I'm using plywood, but you could also use MDF, a heavy foam board, or another similar material as long as it's sturdy and flat. I've cut mine to fit a full-size bed, but if you're making a different size, just be sure to adjust your fabric and foam sizes accordingly. To start off, I want to go ahead and take the overall measurements of my headboard so I know how much fabric, batting, and foam I need to purchase. Keep in mind your foam will be an inch smaller on the top 3 sides than your backer, but you will need to add an extra 6 to 8 inches of fabric and batting around all the edges so you have plenty to wrap around the foam and backer and staple in place on the back side. Now, roll out the foam and lay your headboard backer on top. Trace around the headboard shape with a marker. You'll notice this piece of foam isn't quite tall enough to cover the entire headboard, so I just trimmed off the excess, slid it back under the top, then continued tracing to complete the shape of the headboard. In order for the fabric to wrap and lay smoothly around the edges, I'll actually be cutting the foam so it's an inch smaller than the backer. To do that, measure in an inch on both sides and just connect the tick marks to create a solid line. You don't need to worry about trimming the bottom edge because that part will be hidden behind the bed. Because the curves along the top edge are a bit trickier, use a ruler or a seam gauge to measure in 1 inch and make tick marks, following the curves as you go. I've connected all the tick marks, making a solid line that will be easy to follow as I cut the foam. Now we're ready to cut out our shape. Using fabric scissors, cut the foam along the lines you just made that are 1 inch in from the original tracing. Now we'll use spray adhesive to attach the foam to the backer. I've laid down a piece of plastic to work on for this part. Make sure you follow any safety precautions listed on the can as well. Lay the backer down flat and place the foam on top. Now remember, when you place the foam back on the backer, you want to have 1 inch of backer showing on the top as well as both the left and right edges. Lift up an edge of the foam and spray adhesive between the backer and the foam. Press the foam back down into place. Move to another area, lift, spray, and press back into place until you have all the foam secured to the backer. Once all your foam is secure, it's time to add a layer of batting to provide a nice smooth surface for your fabric to drape over. I'm using a queen-size piece of batting with extra loft. Lay the batting out flat and place the backer, foam side down, on top of the batting. I've folded the batting in half, increasing the thickness even more. Trim the batting down so there is about 6 to 8 inches left around the perimeter of the headboard. Now you'll staple the batting to the back side of the headboard. Start in the middle of the bottom edge. Pull the batting around to the back side and secure it with a staple. Continue wrapping and stapling the batting along the rest of the bottom edge. Just a side note, it's also a good idea to keep a small hammer nearby to finish securing any staples that might not go completely into the wood. When you get to a corner, you're just going to trim off the excess batting so you can fold the corner nice and neat, similar to how you would fold the corners of a present. To do this, you'll trim each of the corners in a J shape. The left side will look like a backwards J, and the right side will mirror that cut and will look like a normal J. Let's start at the left bottom corner. Make that backwards J cut in your batting. Now take the batting on this outside edge and fold it over, slightly tucking in the bottom edge. Fold under and staple along the folded edge to secure. Go ahead and trim the right corner, mirroring the cuts we made on our left corner. Then, just fold your batting around and staple it into place, just like before. Now you're ready to staple your way up the 2 sides. Be sure to pull the batting evenly as you go. When you get to a corner this time, go ahead and trim in that J shape like you did before, but this time, don't staple the fold in place just yet. At this point, it's very important to make sure you have little to no slack, lumps, or wrinkles in your batting. So once you have it all smooth and looking good, we will start working on the top edge. With your headboard standing upright, pull the batting at the center of the top edge up and around to the back side, just enough to pull out any wrinkles and staple in place. Now, if you have a curve-shaped headboard like mine, it can get a little tricky to get the batting to pull around and into the curves just right. To help with this, we're going to create a series of cuts in the back side of the batting along the curves. The cuts you make will depend on the shape of your headboard, but a good rule of thumb is to make at least 3 strips for each inward curve. You can always make more if needed to make the batting lie smoother. Now, you'll want to be careful whenever you're tugging on these batting strips. If you pull too hard, they could rip right off. You may also want to play around with these strips a bit. Try pulling them in different directions so they lay just how you want. But let me show you the basic idea of what to do here. Start by pulling the strips so they lay smooth along the curve and secure them with a staple. When you get to an inward curve, you'll want to start by pulling the outer strips away from the center and staple them into place. You may need to add extra staples or even staple a tad closer to the edge for this part. Then complete the curve by pulling the center strip directly over the middle and secure in place. Just take the curves one at a time, securing the strips in place before moving on to the next. The most important thing here is that you achieve nice, smooth edges with no visible bunching from the front. After you finish stapling along the top edge, trim off any excess batting. Be sure not to cut too close to the staples so they maintain the best grip to hold the batting in place. Once you get all of your batting secured, you're finally ready to add your fabric. Using a heavy upholstery fabric like this one is best because it helps to hide any small imperfections that may be in your batting. If you decide to use a lighter weight fabric, it's a good idea to add a layer of muslin in between the batting and the finishing fabric to add some weight and to really help smooth everything out. Now, I've already cut my fabric about 6 or 8 inches larger than my backer size, so I have plenty to wrap around the back side and staple. This fabric isn't wide enough off the bolt to cover the width of my headboard, so I've sewn a couple of pieces together to make it fit. Keep in mind that if your fabric has a repeating pattern, you'll need to buy enough so the pattern lines up all the way across the headboard. To line up and center your fabric where you want it, stand your headboard up and casually drape it over the top, making sure you've left enough fabric to wrap around the bottom edge as well. Once you get the fabric where you like it, reach around and put a quick staple or 2 in the top center of the back side to hold it in place. Now lay everything face down. Make sure the fabric is pulled taut against the top staples and is lying smooth under the headboard. So because we know our headboard is 60.5 inches wide, we want to find our center at 30.25 inches and mark it so we can line our fabric up centered. Now, find the center of your fabric design on this bottom edge and pull it taut. Fold it up, fold the raw edge under, and staple it in place. I like to fold the raw edges under just so it looks a little cleaner. Continue pulling, folding, and stapling the fabric along the bottom edge, making sure the fabric design is lining up correctly all the way across. Be sure to pull the fabric taut as you staple to keep everything smooth. When you get to the corner, cut the backwards J shape as before, fold the fabric over, and staple to secure. Repeat this for the opposite bottom corner. Now you'll do the sides. The process is the same as you did with the batting, just make sure that your fabric's design stays lined up on the edges all the way up. Cut the J's in the corners when you get to them, but don't fold and staple yet. Okay, we're ready for the top. First, trim the fabric so you have about 6 inches of overhang from the edge, following the curved shape. At this point, I like to stand the headboard up so I can keep an eye on the pattern on the front as I'm stapling to make sure it's staying straight. Starting in the top middle, working out one side at a time, repeat the same technique you did with the batting, making your cuts in the fabric along the curve. So, continue working a little at a time, cutting, pulling, and manipulating the strips so the fabric lays right along the curves. Then staple them into place. Once it's all pulled tight and stapled, trim off any excess fabric. And you're done! We mounted our headboard directly on the wall, and wow, it really does make a beautiful impact on your room. Well, that's all for today, guys. Be sure and check out our other videos in our Sew This Bedroom series for more ideas on ways to create a designer bedroom yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time at the Hobby Lobby Creative Studio.